For all the clever remake culture talk I did before, I have to say, good God am I excited to play this game. Welcome people to the mini playthrough of the Fanaticism Zealer in Diablo 2 Resurrected. Now a couple of FAQs people might have. First, what is a mini playthrough? Well, it's just a playthrough of the game, starting from a fresh level 1 character all the way through Hell Baal with my stupid voice commentating on it throughout. Next, why am I playing single player and not multiplayer? Well, my time with this game started in 2016 thanks to speedruns, and since then I have been spoiled by the lag-free, no server issues, no limit on how many times you can create a new game, etc. problems. Also, if you're one of those people that claims that there is no such thing as lag in multiplayer, remember that you don't live in India and are not subscribed to my ISP. Finally, Chinmay, why a Paladin? Why not a sorceress like everyone else? Well, there's reason number 1, to be a bit different. Also, this ties into the advantages of playing single player thing. I can play whatever I want. I don't have to stick to a meta dictated by the cookie cutter nature of this game, and I can just enjoy the hack and slash goodness that I experienced in my childhood, just now in HD. So, what am I doing build wise? Currently I'm skilling my Paladin as a might sacrificer, I guess. That means 1 point into sacrifice, and as I go on I'll be putting points into might. Later I'll switch to Zeal when that option becomes available to me and become a Mighty Zealer, and then eventually a Fanaticism Zealer. Pretty straightforward build overall. For my weapon I'm using this 2 open socket scepter. This is because scepters are the highest damage dealing weapons that I can get at this stage of the game, and they're fairly easy to obtain as well, as I can just buy them from Akara. Also, the sockets in here allow for additional elemental damage like poison to be added from chipped gems. For my stats, since this is a melee build, I'm trying to keep dexterity and vitality at the same level to start. That's because early levels, dex gives you pretty good attack rating returns. Now what attack rating is basically, when you're a caster, your attacks hit 100% of the time. However, with melee, there is a percentage accuracy that your attacks have, the max being 95%, and that accuracy is governed by your level versus the monster's level that you're fighting, which is why I had an easier time killing Bloodraven's minions than herself. The second contributor to that percentage accuracy is attack rating. To start off, I like to keep dexterity and vitality at equal levels to give myself both health so that I don't die, and attack rating so I can hit things. Moving forwards, I'll become more gear dependent for my attack rating. Speaking of gear, one great piece of it became available to me at level 6 in the underground, strangling gas potions. Now being a melee character, your AoE really sucks. This fight with the skeletons shows that. I have to play pretty defensively here since I can only hit one monster at a time, that too with shaky accuracy, and these guys can gang up on me and hurt a lot. Strangling gas potions alleviate this problem of lack of area of effect or AoE damage a bit. With these I can soften up boss groups like our friend Treehead over here and then finish them off with stronger melee hits from my weapon. These also work great in the Countess Tower since you find plenty of boss packs in here for you to get to level 12ish and also get some runes along the way. Also, hey, this is something cute. When your mercenary dies now, she lies there in town and guilt trips you into resurrecting her. Kinda like how we guilt trip Blizzard into resurrecting this game.
Do you guys not have phones? Yeah.
Anyways, on a serious note, my skill placement till level 10 was all into Might Aura. However, at level 10, I changed this and put a point into Smite. This isn't a skill I plan on using, but it is a prerequisite for my other skills. Speaking of, at level 11, I would be saving my skill point, that is to say not spend it on any skill. That is because at level 12, I get 2 major buffs to my character in the form of Zeal and Charge. Now Zeal is kind of mandatory for a Zealer since, I'll let you figure this one out. Charge isn't so much, but it's a fun way to move around, especially in HD with high FPS. This looks sweet. Also, while gathering levels, I gathered runes by killing the Countess over and over again. The main rune words that I shot for with this guy were the following: Tal-Eth for stealth, or as I like to call it, the obligatory stealth. Reason being that this armor is too good to pass up for any character starting out. Faster run walk, FHR, dex, poison res, and all in plentiful quantities. Even FCR is helpful to an extent, especially when we'll be teleporting later. And yes, I will be teleporting using a Paladin without Enigma. Except not really. You'll see. For now, I'll leave you hanging to increase my average view time and tell you that this Ral helmet is pretty great for starting characters as well, especially so when you reach Acts 3 and 4. That is where fire damage from monsters really starts to pick up, and this will save your life on hardcore and save you a couple trips from town on softcore. Finally, steel. Now this I have only made to test out. I want to do a comparison between faster attack speed and higher damaging weapons in the early game, and this is fighting out of the increased attack speed corner. It has 25 increased attack speed itself, and that too on an extremely fast base of a scimitar. I mean, it does have some good damage modifiers on it too, and that open wounds can certainly not be neglected. However, I want to find out if it pushes more DPS than something like the scepter which I'm wielding right now. This scepter has some ED as well, and of course the standout feature being the chance to cast amplified damage. I mean, that's the benefit of having a large stash now with a remaster, is that I can store more items for experiments like these. Another candidate for the damage side of the argument can be an old contender. My first 2 open socket scepter, I ended up adding a ruby into the second socket, and it can give me an edge in certain scenarios, like the Endariel fight. Now I don't know if I've mentioned this yet or not, but I plan to do Andy runs with this guy. If you've watched some of my old mini playthroughs, this will come as no surprise, as she's pretty good for farming up to level 20 and can drop some decent items along the way for you as well. Now here in my first kill, you can see that I had no problem while using the steel scimitar, as I was taking pretty much no damage thanks to the antidote potions that I drank before fighting her, and the good attack speed made sure that I got multiple hits in quickly to get her down. Now for my next run, I used my next approach, which was to use the scepter with rubies in it for fire damage. You would think that it would obliterate her, but not really. Yes, it was doing more damage owing to the fact that fire is Andy's kryptonite, but the lower attack speed was something that I could feel too, especially while attacking other mobs with Zeal's auto-targeting. Also, I completely missed that this was a unique ring and I'd identified it as a rare, thus a little jump later, I guess I'll take this Nagel. Thank you very much. After a few runs, I ended up finding a sibling for it. Yeah, these rings are good, not only for their magic find but also for attack rating, and thus I'll be using these throughout the playthrough even when I'm not dedicated on magic find runs. Another item I suspect I'll use throughout is Hisaru's belt. You've heard it before if you've seen me do melee characters, but it is great for its cold res and life stats, but the real greatness doesn't even really start till we find the accompanying boots for the same. That is not the drop I got next. Instead, I found some unique heavy gloves. These are another one of Andy's popular drops, Blood Fists. 10% increased attack speed, a huge bonus of 30% FHR, and 40 to life as well. Great gloves for melee. Next up, I found the aforementioned boots, the green chain boots of Hisaru's, which again are a pretty nice piece of gear by themselves with 20% faster run walk and 25% fire res, but as you can see, these give a pretty big boost to attack rating, which only increases as you level up. Remember when I said in the beginning that I'll be shifting my focus from dexterity to gear to get my attack rating? Yeah, this is the sort of stuff that I was talking about right here. Unfortunately, I didn't get any amazing weapons during my haul. I found this scimitar with huge lifesteal, open wounds and IAS, but since the damage from this guy is pretty heavily weapon dependent, I would have at least liked something like a crush flange or a gnasher for crushing blow. Alas, we move on with what we have. Even if we didn't get a direct upgrade in offense, at least we got an indirect one in the form of a poison shrine as soon as I entered Act 2. This, as you can see, is great for killing monsters around at the time, but also, as importantly, it gives you choking gas potions which at this stage of the game do pretty good damage to monsters nearby you. Quite like strangling gas, they are great for weakening bosses before finishing them off with your melee hits. Also, I just noticed I haven't even mentioned the remaster for the most part. That's because, like I said in a previous video, I don't really care much for graphics in this game, as much as I do about the gameplay, but I gotta be honest, the darkness in Act 2 Drognin quest looks brilliant here. Especially pretty is the cold shrine hanging on top of the Paladin, yeah, this really is a gorgeous remake, all things considered. at least up to Act 2. Even the maggot lair looks all cool and goopy, but that's a good thing because that is exactly what I would imagine a lair full of maggots to be like. Anywho, back to gameplay. I was here to collect the Staff of Kings, which I did after killing the maggot boss. The damage does seem to be holding pretty fine with my scimitar and zeal combo. Let's see if it does in the future as well as we head into Arcane. But first, goddamn, this Arcane looks awesome. Okay, I'll stop. Now the damage does start to slow down in Arcane, and the main reason are these physical resistant ghosts. Now to combat this problem, there are two routes. A. Increase my primary physical damage, or B. Increase my source of passive damage. The latter can be done by building a malice in a 3 open socket flail, which will give me 100% open wounds, and that would be great against Duriel. However, then I found this. Yeah, that'll do it. The thing that really makes this sword is the boosted minimum damage, which basically brings the range in which it will be doing damage way down. This allows for consistent damage, which, as you can see after this respec, is almost double that of my earlier scimitar. The attack speed is less, yes, but not by much, and overall I found the DPS increasing with the sword's addition to my arsenal. During the respec, I also skilled Vigor. This is a defensive aura and thus not really going to be a part of my regular attack, but does help out in running / charging fast when active. Using it, killing Duriel was a lot better of an experience than I was expecting from the scimitar. Not saying that it was easy, I mean, look at Duriel, guy's ripped. Of course killing this dude is going to be a struggle, but it was way less of a struggle with my mercenary's aid as well. The drops were... yeah. There was some color at least, but unfortunately all it brought me was a duplicate pair of chain boots and a Catton's mask, which is okay I guess, mainly for the mana boost as it will allow me to charge for a little longer. Now Act 3 looks absolutely beautiful as well. This may be my favorite act of the remake so far. I mean, the trees, the monsters, and hey, did you notice these guys drop their skulls when they die? I thought they just burned to a crisp. Well, maybe I should spend less time noticing graphics and more on the gameplay, because Act 3 is where the damage of the monsters starts increasing to alarming heights, like heights that can get you killed. That's pretty high. It's mainly these little critters that do the most amount of annoying physical damage that are cause for worry here. Therefore, slotting a rejuve potion in the belt is never a bad idea. Once I got through them in Flare Jungle, I reached Kurast Bazaar where I planned to do some Serena runs. Just a few. I was level 23 already by this point, and now I only plan to do it till level 24 so that I can get a teleport staff. Also, these runs give me an opportunity to refresh Ormus's trades to search for said teleport staff. This will help in movement a lot, as you might imagine, at the cost of only around 2.5k gold a pop. Using it, I reached Travancore. Here I had two realizations. One, that my PC is not good enough for Hydras in this game. Yeah, I need a new laptop it seems. Two, that my mercenary and me were not good enough to kill this council member. This really was just my ruddy fault as well, since it was all these Hierophants that were healing him, and in doing so, the Hydras ended up killing my mercenary. Oopsies. Silly me. Well, to make up for it, at least the Mephisto fight was really good. I don't know what the source of cold damage is, whether it's me or my mercenary, but it is working wonderfully here. Both me and him absolutely mauled Mephisto. Like, this is where finding that higher base damage weapon earlier really helped out. Also, the higher attack rating, thanks to the hard points that I was putting into Zeal and the Blessed Aim aura for my mercenary, allowed me to finish the fight with ease. Now, before moving on to Act 4, I decided to stay back and do some Mephisto runs for a couple of reasons. One, because I like to tackle Act 4 with melee characters at level 25 generally. Second, because normal Mephi can drop some really useful stuff. I found two examples to show you all. First was the set Kite Shield, which is Millabrega's. The main benefit of this item is the magic find, but it's a pretty nice benefit as it allows other monsters to drop other nice things. Nice things like set gauntlets, which are Saigon's Gauge. Now these don't look nice at first glance. If anything, they look absolutely garbage, but the secret is in the set bonus. My favorite pairing of these is with the Great Helm, as that gets a massive attack rating bonus and gloves get attack speed. That's all for the finds as I reached level 25 within a few runs here at Mephisto. As you can see, I'm continuing to put points into Zeal here for attack rating bonus. From here on out though, I'll max Might just to get the max damage out of that skill. Now Act 4 looks different. I can't tell if I'm a fan of the openness and the non-deathness, if you know how I mean. Now I did try the Hellforge for an Am rune, but to no real success. I got a Tear instead, which yes would help in making the strength rune word I was after, but won't do much on its own. Afterwards I went to face Chaos, and my first experience was... yeah. Let's take this Millabregas off and equip this 25 all-res shield. Yeah, okay, much better. Now this still is Act 4 Chaos, so charging into monsters will lead to bad things still, but if you take things slow and one at a time, it is manageable. Those are the principles I applied while killing Infector. I was able to handle the main guy and a couple of other goons while my mercenary stayed back and went after the rest of the minions. With the help of a couple of health pots, this divide and conquer strategy worked great. Thanks Great Britain. Desaiz and his boys weren't really too much of a headache since they're all too frail to handle my own onslaught before they could even get a chance to dish out some of their own. Vizier was easy too. I mean, look at all the new animations these guys have got. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, that's all they have because their damage and bulk are pretty lame. And then there was Diablo. Yeah. Nothing lame about this guy, except for the way his lightning attack looks, I guess. Obviously normal Diablo is incredibly dangerous, and especially too for melee, since you don't have great damage against him, you'll have an extra bit of a bad time if you don't have Crushing Blow, and guess what I didn't find at neither Endariel nor Mephisto? Well, a lot, but in this context, Crushing Blow. This fight was mostly just me wailing on Diablo. I made sure to chuck thawings beforehand to prevent getting frozen too long from Diablo's cold claw, and from there it was just waiting, with the occasional dodging Diablo's lightning. Boy, all the lightning spells look lame with this remake. Personally, not a fan of this design. Speaking of designs, Act 5 looks pretty good. At the start we only get to see the wilderness, and we're going to be here for a while since I plan to do some Eldritch runs here. These are great for melee characters since I go into them at around level 26, and these allow me to get experience to get to around level 28. Some gold for the coffers and a chance to get some decentish items like this unique Brandistock, which is Blood Thief. Yeah, it's not the best damage wise. In fact, my current mercenary weapon is better in that regard, but the huge lifesteal and the addition of open wounds is pretty valuable, which is why I decided to keep it. Then while doing these runs, once I reached level 28, I moved on to save Anya. As you can see, the ice caves look incredible and they host incredible monsters like these Death Lords. Yup, something tells me that I'm not quite ready to fight those. Thus skipping them over the next time I got to Anya by killing Frozenstein. This is good because now I can do Pindle runs from level 28 to 30. You can certainly just level at Eldritch for the same, but this is, in my opinion, adds a little variety to the runs, which is quite nice. I didn't really find nothing worth showing, but the levels and items to sell for gold do go a long way in making the journey ahead more manageable. Now, it should be noted that even though I hit level 30 once I was finished with these runs, I still didn't switch to the Fanaticism build. Since that skill doesn't have any passive synergies, its damage isn't going to be great right out of the box, and thus I'm going to wait a little bit longer before making the switch. Till then, we're a mighty pally, and thus we'll be facing the Ancients in the same manner, and I got to say, the work here is amazing. You can tell that I complain about things quite often, but credit where it's due, this looks really pretty. The fight itself was a pretty chill affair. The strat that I've shifted to with most of my guys is targeting Madoc first, so that he doesn't escape unscathed and annoy me by sitting on the outside. Thanks to Zeal's inherent AoE capability, this allowed me to bunch up the Ancients together and damage all of them together. Another advantage of targeting Madog is that he has the least HP, so he'll probably die first. And I say that, and then Corlake ends up dying first. Classic. This sound effect is a bit too intense for my liking though. I think they've been pretty good with sound design overall, with effects sounding crisp and impactful with just the right amount, but this Ancient Death sound effect just seems to be a couple layers above the rest, suppressing pretty much everything else. Yeah, don't know about that. Anywho, like I mentioned, the fight overall was quite chill. Similar was the story with Baal waves except for wave 2. The Barbarian has an easier time here. First time that sentence has probably ever been spoken, because with Taunt, you can lure the skeletons first, deal with those, and then go after the Unravelers, all without having to worry about Baal's Decrepify. Here, however, I chucked a bunch of thawing potions to reduce the freeze duration of the skeleton's attacks, and then me and my mercenary were able to take everyone out. Lister was always going to be difficult. However, if you manage to lure one of the monster out at a time, you and your mercenary can gang up on it and take it out. However, if the reverse becomes true, yeah, you're gonna have a bad time. Baal 2 is hard, well, more like long. This dude just has a lot of HP and his pool takes forever to empty. Meanwhile, he has plenty of tools to keep you annoyed. His tentacles do good damage, his mana burn attack frequently interrupts your flow of attacks, and his cold V-shaped attacks... these... Hold on, let me just pop a few thawings real quick. That does help out quite a bit in this fight in reducing the freeze duration. Having the mercenary alive is crucial as well, as whenever he did end up dying, not only did my overall damage output decrease, but my attack rating suffered too due to the lack of his blessed aim support. Thus, even during the final strands of the fight, I decided to revive him before finishing up Baal for good. Now in Act 1 normal, things aren't bad per se, but they're definitely slow. It does seem like my sword has exhausted its usefulness quota as the monster's health is increasing and its damage increase has pretty much reached its limit since might has been maxed out at this point. Thus, something needs to be done to fix this. Of course, by something, I mean some Nightmare Countess runs. She is a great place to find runes to build new weapons, armor pieces, and other stuff for both me and my mercenary, but surprisingly enough, on my first few runs, she ended up being a good source of uniques as well, as she dropped me the General Tando Liga. Honestly, looking at this flail, I gotta wonder whether making that Malice in Act 2 would have just been wiser due to the higher range of damage, but we'll just push those feelings down and use this instead. Along with good general attacking stats, it also has slows target by 50%, which comes up huge defensively since my lifesteal, and damage to go alongside with it, are pretty low at the moment. However, this proved to be enough for me to at least complete the Countess runs and get the runes necessary to make the following rune words. First is Black. Now, for all the praise that I gave the unique flail a moments ago, I gotta say that Black is pretty easily the superior choice among the two, boasting more damage, straight bonus to attack rating, knockback, which can be a blessing as a defensive tool, curse as an offensive one, and finally 40% chance of crushing blow. This will make killing bosses a breeze. Trust me, you'll see. I also got myself a 2 open socket helmet with an Ort and a Ral rune. Nothing fancy here, but fire and lightning resistances are the most important and I needed both, and this is the cheapest way to get them. Still using the stealth from normal. I do want to change this out when I get the chance. The run walk and hit recovery are nice, but my resistances problems are not totally fixed. Now, a smoke would have been ideal, but finding or cubing a Lum in Nightmare is not the easiest thing ever, so I'm sticking to this for a while. One of the causes of my resistances problems is my switch from Ancient's Pledge to Rhyme. Now, I have this in a bone shield for increased blocking. I unfortunately haven't found a good enough Paladin shield with resistances and 2 sockets to build this in, but I have the spare runes for if it were to happen in the future. Overall, this is a pretty recognizable and effective shield with 25 all resistances, cannot be frozen, and all the increased and faster blocking stuff that helped me reach max block easier. Then my jewelry is pretty standard. I would wager that this amulet is a step below standard really. I mean really all I'm getting off it is the magic find, but since I haven't found anything better, I'm sticking with it. One of my rings is a Nagel for the attack rating and magic find. I switch back and forth with my second ring. Sometimes it's a Nagel and other times it is this Kathan's since it provides me with 6% lifesteal. Lifesteal does have a bit more value with my new build and gear, as at least on the high end I do deal some nice raw damage to leech back from. Then the gloves are pretty standard fare. Standard blood fists for the 40 to life boost, FHR and IAS. I'm not even sure if that does anything because Fanaticism provides crazy IAS anyways, but they're still better. What does help out still, and is also something I got in Act 1 normal, is the Hisaru set. The belt and boot combo is absolutely great, both separately and the attack rating bonus with them together is massive. You can literally see the difference the base attack rating causes once I remove one piece. This is a blessing and a curse since I can't use any sweet pair of boots like these that I found in normal. The charms are general melee jiggery pokery of the life, attack rating and resistance assortment. All in all, this gets my resistances to a comfortable-ish levels. Nothing is maxed, which is what I would expect from a Paladin and Nightmare, but no worries. The life is solid at 636 and the damage with Fanaticism and Black ranges from 40 to 283. Also with enough dexterity and Holy Shield investment, I currently have max block. Speaking of auras and skills, let's start with the defensive ones. This is pretty simple as all I have here is a single point in Vigor. This is just for a little boost to faster run walk that I put on while roaming around town and charging around not town. The offensive auras are simple enough as well. The main focus here is on Fanaticism, as you might guess. Since this aura has no other synergies, I have gone all in on this and is currently sitting at level 11, giving me 90% attack rating, 220% damage and 31% increased attack speed. Coming to combat skills, we have Zeal. Again, being a Fanaticism Zealer, the focus on this skill is more due to the attack rating plus number of hits that I get per attack. Till now I have 16 points into it. It shall be noted that putting points into sacrifice ends up boosting damage instead of zeal, so that is a balance that you can decide to have, whether you want to eke out that extra bit of damage by putting points into sacrifice, or if you prefer the attack rating bonus of zeal. Then another skill that I have invested a bit in is Holy Shield. Again, at level 5 this gets me to max block at my current dexterity and also lasts for a while. 1 point in Holy Shield always runs out before you even know it, and thus I like to invest a bit more than that into it. Finally we have the Mercenary. His gear is pretty standard fare too. He has a sparkling mail on as his body armor for the lightning resistance, he has a helmet with 2 Rald runes for high fire resistance, and finally a battle branch poleaxe to round it all up. I do have built a strength for him in a partisan, but in a cruel joke of irony, his strength is not enough to wield his strength, and thus I have to wait a bit. In the meantime, we can test out the build and it seems to be working really well. I've said this before too, but I love the addition of Cannot Be Frozen to my melee characters in Nightmare, just from a comfort standpoint more than anything. By the time I reached Andariel, my mercenary did level up and reach the required strength to wield the crushing blow weapon, and thus I put it on him and we both went to go destroy the Poison Queen. This is what I was alluding to previously, when I said that with this weapon, bosses will be a breeze. Crushing Blow helps out melee characters a ton, and having 40% of it at your disposal is great. Not only that, my attack speed, attack rating, and damage have all greatly increased as well with my shift from Might to Fanaticism. Combine this with an increase of damage from my mercenary as well, Andy was no problem at all. Thus going forwards, I'll be making her my MF target of choice while I farm for experience till level 50. Before that, of course, I gotta do the Andariel bug, otherwise people will get mad, even though I don't know if the Andariel perks even works in this version, or any version for that matter, but hey, gotta do it. Now the first find I found within 2 runs was this weapon upgrade in the form of a unique holy water sprinkler, the Fetid Sprinkler. CDC Decrep plus Confuse, +2 to Pally skills and a whole lot of damage and attack rating. Yes, please. That is a pretty nice find to find from the get-go. Even though I'm happy with Black's performance for now, but this will definitely help in the raw damage, which is something the base of a flail of my Black lacks. The next find will patch up the one thing I'll lose from switching away from Black, Crushing Blow from the Rattle Cage. What a goddamn iconic armor. That 25% Crushing Blow is huge. The 40% hit causes the monster to flee is annoying, and it kind of will be replacing the knockback from my current Black, I guess, but I'll definitely take this with open arms. Next up, I found a piece of armor that will help me more right now than it will later, the unique Skullcap Tarn Helm. This being a great find due to the huge buff of MF it provides, even though this only rolled 30% from the possible roll of 25 to 50%. Still, a pretty great find. This will allow me to find other great things too, like the sword Hexfire. Now, this compares interestingly with my current planned upgrade since it also adds pretty decent damage, but this comes with the Ignore Target's defense stat, which is pretty useful against most monsters since your need for attack rating is eliminated against them. This won't work against Act bosses however, but it is still something to consider. Then, well, it happened. A unique ring. Seriously. I mean, what are the chances that the first SOJ that I find on D2R is also on a melee character? Well, the chances are not so great since this was a Nagel. But hey, at least it was a perfect Nagel, so there's that, I guess. My next find was pretty amazing as well. Unique light-plated boots. Basically the Rattle Cage, just now in boots form as Goblin Toes. Now I do love these, but the problem is that I am so heavily dependent on my boots plus belt combo for the attack rating at the moment that I really don't think I can switch away from them. I'll still keep them obviously since you effectively have an infinite stash now and maybe I can use them later. Next up I found a good armor that I could pair with the Goblin Toes if I fancied it, Skin of the Viper Magi. Don't know about you boys, but this is definitely one of my favorite items in the game. Of course on this guy, the +1 to skills and 30 FCR will be more or less wasted, but the resistance bonus is still nice, rolling smack dab in the middle with 27 all resistances. Then there was this run where I found two useful uniques. Well, sort of. First was the Gull Dagger. Now this is interesting because of course it allows me to have extra 100% magic find while dealing the final blow to the monster, but since my pally is melee, I think it will be a little harder to execute as compared to casters which can just switch to this and only have to face a penalty of a little less damage / FCR. Anywho, the unique amulet was Nokazin. Yeah, I wasn't expecting much from this anyways, and this is pretty great for now since I was struggling a bit with my resistances as it is. Finally, yeah, I'm officially spoiled for choices when it comes to weapons. With this final find of Alder's Rhythm, I think I need to crunch some numbers, do some analysis, and then I'll be back with the build that's going to take on Nightmare and my rationale behind it. So after the analysis, let's get a quick rundown of the things that have changed in my gear. Thus making the last rundown kinda pointless, but we press on. The first thing that has changed is the weapon. Now I did agonize over this and finally settled on the Fetid Sprinkler. That is because it gives me good damage, some plus skills for higher Fanaticism and Vigor bonuses, and also that CDC Decrepify and Confuse is too cool to pass up. It is slow and does need the help of a Shale Rune to really get going, but for now, the surroundings are hospitable enough due to me being over-leveled that I can make that trade. Next change is on my head and it is a 3 open socket crown with 2 Orts and a Thull Rune. Sort of the bigger brother of the Ral Ort war hat I had on before. The real reason I don't need the Ral anymore is this, Nokazin's Relic, giving me insane fire res and thus making it one component of my gear that I just don't have to think about anymore. Finally, we have the centerpiece of the Rattle Cage. I mean, we all know it's good, but I was skeptical that it won't look cool with the purple looking a bit muted in the item art. Thankfully, I can confirm it does look cool. Don't think so yet? Let me give you a better angle. Yeah, it does look oh so cool. I can confirm, boys, that the build does work really well. Thus, you can see in this snake temple one of the harder areas of Act 2 where this guy can chow down snakes without any issue. That's the beauty of being over leveled with a melee character. At least for an act or two, you don't have to worry about your chance to hit against monsters. If there is still any doubt, Decrepify can cast and further lower enemies' defenses, making them easier to hit as well. All these attributes carry forth in the Duriel fight as well. Here I way overcompensated my cold rest potions since the actual fight, yeah, it was a Summon Mancer versus Hell Diablo sort of affair. The crushing blow and the raw damage is just too much for the bug to handle. Also, I was able to use the Gall Dagger against him after the kill. How? Well, just let the mercenary finish him off. You boys were probably screaming that at me when I made the observation the first time, but yeah, not like I got anything good with the G-Dagger anyways. Them do be how it is sometimes. Act 3 was pretty straightforward with the over-leveled and over-geared Pally as well. Travincle is a good example to show how good my Paladin can handle things. Not to mention how much lifesteal is able to sustain him now that his base damage is respectable. The Mephisto fight was super quick as well. Now even with max res, this guy is scary. Thus, in the few magic find runs I plan to do with him, I'll try to keep mostly the same gear and just get a Gall Dagger on swap for the massive 100% magic find boost near the end. Now while starting these runs, I was level 53. My aim here was to get to level 55ish, as Mephisto runs don't really give too much experience, and thus I didn't want to be stuck down here forever. In terms of drops, I found a set amulet, not the one a melee character would want, but hey, first time finding Tal Rashas in the Resurrected version, for whatever that's worth, I guess. Then we have a clip of me reaching level 55 because I didn't really end up finding anything else in the short while that I was here. What this does allow us to do is look at what a Mephisto run looked like. As you can see, I went ahead with my usual gear set to bring him down to really low HP first and then switch to the Gall Dagger at the very end to get that massive boost of 100% magic find. Does work quite effectively since passive damage and the Merc are able to finish him off. Well, that is all Mephisto wrote, and I moved on to Act 4. This act is a generally good benchmark that I use to assess where my characters are in terms of damage, both dishing it and taking it head on. As you can see from this clip that the curses from the Fetid Sprinkler help out a lot in both aspects. Decrepify is a great all-round curse providing both offensive and defensive utility. Then you have Confuse, which makes the monsters stupider than they already are and fight each other, which is amusing and again, quite useful both offensively and defensively. Through these tactics, I had cleared out the area around the Hellforge, including the Hammer Guy himself. By this point it had been months since I played the game, so much so that I forgot that this area was called the Hellforge. Thankfully the game isn't so pissed at me as it gave me an rune. I am actually going to grumble a little bit at this too because Lem would have been strictly better, but you know, is definitely second best. Then we had Chaos. The trick here is real simple. Don't get overcrowded. Taking your time and taking out monsters one at a time is the most effective technique. Almost a necessary one when you're a melee character because the monsters are plenty and the damage can become overwhelming real quick. The Infector fight you just saw could have been a lot different if I hadn't killed nearby monsters and was like getting cursed by Necros or whatever. Trust me, I speak from experience. A very good example of what I just said can be seen in the Decise fight. I was getting cursed by the two Necros that I just let hang around before fighting Decise's goons, and you can see, here I realized that they were a great nuisance and went after them. Other than that, these guys can be overwhelming too with their own Fanaticism aura, so keep health pots at the ready and when you can, teleport to Decise and kill him. Finally, Vizier. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Kill monsters around him, or don't. It's just Vizier at the end of the day. Finally, Diablo. And honestly for him, I found myself harboring similar thoughts. I mean, they had the game, they were remastering it, They could have easily fixed the lightning hose glitch which shoots from way out with Hell and Nightmare Diablo, but they didn't. Thus this Diablo is kind of just a flailing black lizard waiting to repeatedly get struck with crushing blows and go down. Yeah, poor little goat. Nightmare Ancients started off real fast and furious as they ate up my mercenary in a matter of seconds. See, while fighting them, for some reason, I did not anticipate that these guys will do a lot of damage, which was a pretty stupid line of reasoning because guess what they do? A lot of damage. It was mainly Corlig that hit like a truck because he had the extra strong mod, but I was going according to my standard route of getting rid of Madoc first as he can be annoying and snipe you from far away. Here, however, while I got him down, Corlig beat me up pretty good. I retaliated after a potion break where I got Decrepify to cast on him. However, remember what we learned from the Whirlwind Barbarian mini playthrough, boys? Decrepify actually makes Whirlwind hit more often, and thus Talik had a field day with me for a while. Finally, after yet another potion break, I was able to separate the two enough to first finish off Corlig and then work on Talik. It was at this point that I realized that Talik was Might Aura enchanted this whole time. Yeah, that's the sort of thing that I probably should have checked while re-rolling these guys. Whatever, we survived and thus we move. During Baal waves, you really get to appreciate the utility of having Decrepify on striking. Yeah, when it actually casts, of course. In my case, it did cast for wave 4, which was fantastic as it turned these guys into some slow-moving, flame-guzzling old grandpas which me and my mercenary were easily able to dispatch off. Lister had other ideas in terms of casting curses, quite scary ones too, might I add. At first he was able to kill my mercenary and then do some heavy damage to me too, but I bounced back, got the Decrepify to cast and took him down. Another monster against which Decrepify really puts in work is Baal. Now, Baal is annoying as he is, jumping around, doing his mana burn attacks and jabbing you, but once you get Decrepify on him, which I got at the very end of this fight, he pretty much gets frozen in place. Plus, between me and my mercenary, I felt that we had enough crushing blow that I could confidently wield the Fetid Sprinkler instead of the Black Rune Word, and that is what I plan to do in the upcoming Baal runs. Now, I didn't really end up finding that much in these runs that followed except for finding out that hit causes monster to flee at 40% drives me up the wall. Not only does it get in the way of my natural flow of attacks, but it also overwrites any of the curses that I get from my weapon. Thus, upon reaching Hell, I decided to put the I found from the Hellforge to good use and made a Duress to replace the Rattle Cage. Speaking of Hell, yeah, my resistances are not the greatest. Don't know if you can tell. They're not the worst either, but the life of a Hell melee character is tough as is, and having something like 25% lightning rest can prove to be a huge handicap just because you attack at such close quarters to the monsters. Also, it's pretty obvious from this Den of Evil that my damage has started to lag behind a bit as well. It's not non-existent levels of nothingness yet, but against physical resistant monsters like zombies, it has started to show age, and one can only imagine that the rest will follow soon. And yes, I was proven right once again. How does he do it? When I reached Catacombs 4. Here too you can see my damage is okay, but not good, and my defenses are holding up but just barely against regular monsters. However, that's not how D2 works. It expects your offense and defense to be top-notch while fighting two elite packs with different enchantments. Oh, and a big scary poison lady is going to be chasing you down as well. Have fun. Well then, now a lesser man would have quit at this point and created a magic finding sorceress and used it to give an item to a paladin. However, new year, new me. I was going to make this paladin work if it's the last thing I did. Honestly, I make it sound like a big deal. It was pretty comfortable in the end. I already had a solid weapon in terms of the stats on it. All I needed was a damage upgrade, and thus I turned to the Countess Tower. Look at this tower map roll, by the way. Unbelievably good. This allowed me to farm her easily multiple times so that I could get the following runes needed for the upgrade recipe. Pol, which was the difficult one and thus I found it first, and Lum, which was the easy one and thus it took like 20 minutes extra. Afterwards, I also returned to Nightmare LK to re-roll some armor stands. This was so that I could fix my resistance problem, and the easiest way to do that with a Paladin is, well, be a Paladin and get a super busted shield base like this one with 30 all res and 2 sockets, so that I can throw Shale and Eth in there to make rhyme. Thus now, I guess we are ready to go through my gear, as I am all upgraded and respec'd and ready to take on hell. As for my weapon, there should be no surprises that I'm sticking with the Fetid Sprinkler, now upgraded to a Seraph Rod. Now I did this for a couple of reasons. Number 1, finding particular weapons in this game can be hard, to say the least. Plus, this is a perfectly lovely one in itself. You've heard me gush about the CTC curses on this thing, and I think that they are the highlight stat on it. There have been legitimate fights that I thought I couldn't win, and then Decrepify or Confuse would cause enough disruption that I would often come out on top at the end of the exchange. Then we have +2 to Pally skills. That is just nice. Although since all my skills are purely for attack rating and add pretty little to damage, it isn't too important. The straight attack rating is nice though, can never have too much of that, and yeah. With this new upgraded base, it actually has some pretty nice base damage, which is finally boosted by my skills and aura. Further going down the list of items I listed off before but didn't show to you, Duress. This is my upgrade over the Rattle Cage, and although it boasts a lesser stat of 15% crushing blow, it at least adds that element to my attack, which is the crucial part for all melee characters. Adding to that, we also have 33% open wounds and not negligible cold damage, 40% FHR, which is great overall, and so are the resistances added due to the Thul and runes. Speaking of resistances, the shield I showed you before is really what makes the Paladin the broken beast that he is, because you can realistically wield a 55 all-res rhyme shield at the start of Hell with pretty minimal to no farming effort. Not only that, this shield blocks pretty well too. I'm pretty sure I do not have max block, but it did help me reach 50% block with pretty minimal dex investment, so that's neat. What isn't neat and is pretty janky is the fact that I am so goddamn reliant on this helmet. It's not even that I haven't found better headgears than this, it's just if I took this 3 open socket crown with Ort Thul, lightning damage will pretty certainly destroy me. Therefore, needs must. Similar case can be made for Nokazins, but to be fair, I really haven't found any better amulets to replace this neither. Nor can I think of any that I would benefit from greatly as compared to 50 fire res and 10% max fire res as well. However, my supplement of fire res is still better than lightning from the other gear. Take Hisaru's boots for example. These give me the incidental 25% without me even noticing it for the most part. That is because I use these in combination with the belt only for the massive 730 base attack rating. That's a pretty huge bonus, not one that I can afford to lose in favor of something like Goblin Toes, even though I would love to put those on. However, this is the age-old melee character ballad, isn't it? Being tied down to at least one of these attack rating bonus giving sets. Thankfully in this guy's case, thanks to Fanaticism also boosting attack rating, just Hisaru's suffices. My rings do still give me some little AR bonuses. This rare one gives me 63 along with 5% lifesteal and some MF too, cause why not? If we want the real OG of MF rings, we gotta look at its partner. Perfect 30% MF Nagel with 64 AR bonus as well. Again, can never hurt to have too much of that stat. Finally, my gloves add to that a little bit as well, as Magnus's skin give me 100 attack rating, 20 IAS and 15 fire res. With all the gear pieces in play, my Paladin is sitting at the following resistances: cold and fire being maxed, lightning is almost but, and poison is anything but. Thankfully antidotes exist and can help me patch that up in a pinch. My damage is looking pretty good, 1.5k to 1.9k with the little scepter that I found from Nightmare Charcy. Not too bad at all. My life is at a pretty satisfying figure of 1000 hit points and my chance to block is 49%. Also, here are some other stats. from this panel that I totally knew was here. Anywho, one thing that I'm quite well versed with are skills. That's because it is a pretty simple tree for this guy. We start off with Max Zeal and Fanaticism, both to boost my attack rating, IAS and damage. To further get the damage up, I have maxed Sacrifice as a synergy for Zeal. Since Fanaticism doesn't have a synergy, I dumped the rest of the points into Holy Shield after getting the essentials like Charge and Vigor. Anywho, enough talk and let's rock. Oh wait, forgot to show the mercenary. Anywho, continuing with the talk, we have Gulzar. He's rocking a sick Kelpie snare that I found recently during Baal runs. What makes it sick is the slows target by 75% mod, which really helps to neutralize melee targets in Hell. The reason that I can use this on him is because he gets crushing blow from his armor. Yup, I put the rattle cage on him instead. He actually benefits from the hit causes monster to flee since it increases his survivability, so I didn't mind it too much on him. Finally, for some lifesteal, I've put an undead crown on him. That also gives him some sick poison res, something I hope he'll put to good use in the next fight against Andariel. Now, you can tell while clearing up the catacombs that a little bit of improvement in damage and defense has made a huge difference in the outlook of this fight. That just goes to show you that often in Diablo 2, it is about the little things and the little figures that count the most. Not only that, with melee, especially self-found, you'll often find yourself teetering on that edge, and often all you need is a little push from an upgrade or a new weapon or gear piece which can completely change how well your character can take on the game. As you saw, my weapon is fine as is. You just saw Decrepify put in a ton of work against Andariel. Also, my crushing blow held up pretty well, even though it is only 15% from duress. However, it was all that I needed, and we shall pass on to Act 2. What also holds up well, which we can see in Act 2, is my lifesteal. My foe in question here is Fangskin, a very formidable one, as many of you know, and the fact that I can just steamroll through him, pretty much just sitting on full HP the whole time, shows that the rare ring with 5% lifesteal is putting in more work than you may have initially thought. Speaking of rings putting in work, thank you 30% Nagel for this Razor Switch drop. A bit too late to switch to Hammerden, I must say, but I appreciate the gesture, game. Right then, let's get on to the Duriel fight. Now this guy is an annoying one to take on for melee characters, and that's because of his Holy Freeze. It slows you down constantly, making you attack at half speed. Not only that, but he loves doing damage to your mercenary. That is a problem because once he does eventually kill him, he can start stunning you with his attacks. Not to mention for me, it is even more of a nuisance as my attack rating gets decreased with my mercenary's blessed aim gone. Thus I revived him, and with our combined powers of crushing blow, we were able to take Duriel down soon after. Also, this game really wants me to go caster, doesn't it?
Joey, no means no.
Right, Act 3. The place where hopes and characters go to die. Gotta love it. Actually, I shouldn't say that because this act was incredibly generous to me. Well, to my mercenary at least. That's because first, while I was down in the spider caverns killing the spiders and minding my own business, one of them dropped me an ethereal thresher. And it has 2 sockets as well. I mean, if any weapon has ever screamed the words, "Put Am tier in me please," it would be this one. Yeah. Sorry, Kelpie Snare, I'll take the option with the almost double raw damage, please. Now for the time being, I decided to give him Bone Flesh for some extra lifesteal, as with strength, he didn't really need the Rattle Cage as a source of crushing blow. However, the game wasn't satisfied, and thus the guy with the Gidbin ended up dropping me a unique Kraken Shell as well. Yeah, sure, that's just a casual levy I just found. A pretty okay one at that too. Okay then, game. Andariel's Visage next maybe, to improve his helmet? Yeah, no, that would have been too good to be true. From here on out, we return to our regularly scheduled programming as I had to traverse to the Flare Dungeon next. Now, this is a pleasant place. It has 2 types of monsters. Ones that I can't kill, like these ghosts, which are physical immune, and ones that I can kill, but probably shouldn't. Yeah, thumbs up to whoever designed dolls. Mephisto's alright though, especially if you get a lightning shrine right before fighting him and instantly decrepify him while getting into it. Decrepify is such a good curse, and that too not only against melee. Even against someone like Mephisto, it goes such a long way, it basically slowing down time for you, allowing you to get in way more hits while Mephisto is basically stuck mid-animation. The crushing blow was also very nice in this fight. In retrospect, I probably should have put the rattle cage back on my mercenary for this fight because I doubt the damage reduction from the levy actually helped at all here. Also, I should have put the gull in my inventory for the end of the fight, but oh well, guess I missed out on a unique Brandistock and Gothic shield. Imagine my devastation. Act 4 Hellforge landed me in a pretty awkward situation. Cornered with ogres surrounding me, and I didn't even have my teleport staff in my offhand since I had put the hammer there. However, thanks to my amazing flipping scepter, I somehow managed to squirm out of this mess as well. Honestly, I know that I've been banging about this for 2 whole difficulties now, but the curses on this thing are so good. Confuse helped with crowd control here a lot, and Decrepify with general damage reduction and damage dealing as well. The game decided to thus reward me by giving me a pull rune from the Hellforge. I mean, I say it's a reward, but honestly at this point the only thing that I could really use this for is to upgrade my mercenary's old Kelpie snare. Yeah, I think we're good. I'll just save this for a future Hodo or something for my future MF characters. In the meantime, let's finish off this mini playthrough by getting into Chaos. Now, things got tough once I got in here. Act 4 and especially the Chaos does pump the difficulty up a notch. You really have 2 approaches here. Take it super slow and go in killing each and every monster so that you don't have to worry about getting hit from the back, or become a sorceress. With this method too, it is crucial to find an open clearing quick and start clearing that clearing as fast as possible. Especially as a melee character, you want to keep the numbers advantage of the monsters to a minimum. That is because your source of AoE, Zeal in the case of this Paladin, is not really gonna be that great, not in terms of damage or in terms of actual area of effect. Thus fights, boss fights in particular, are hard, Infector being the hardest of them all. In this fight, for instance, you can see that I was walking gingerly towards them to lure them in one at a time, but it only works for a short time. Once they come at you with the pack of dogs mentality as well, your mercenary is pretty much instantly toast. Decrepify helped me hold the dogs out for a little while, but as you can see, I was frantically refilling my belt slots with health potions because the amount of damage I was taking from these guys was just way more than something that my lifesteal could have sustained, and thus I ended up perishing once. Thankfully, I had seen that coming a long while ago, and thus I had set up a TP nearby. In the rebound as well, I believe the only reason that I ended up winning the battle was because of a timely Decrepify proc. Doesn't really feel great winning a fight based on a 5% chance, but hey, we take it and we move. The other 2 aren't nearly as careful, thankfully. Decize, for example, does pack similar firepower as you can see in this clip, but he has no bulk at all. Thus with him, it is just a matter of luring his minions away from his fanaticism, killing them in peace, and then coming back for him. Apparently, he took that time to change his aura from fanaticism to holy freeze. Yeah, sure, that's allowed, isn't it? This actually got really annoying because the slowdown from holy freeze, he kept escaping my paladin's attack till I was finally able to corner him and smack him down. Thankfully, I was awarded suitably for his cheating antics with the best goddamn gloves a melee character could ask for, laying of hands. Yeah, you heard me, Drax. I'll take the 50 fire res, 20 IAS, and 350% damage to demons over a CTC life tap which never even procs, any day of the week. With that, I was able to get Vizier out of there no problem. I mean, that would have happened either way because it is Vizier after all. What these really put in the work against was Diablo. Since with the magic of teleport, his lightning hose attack is nothing but a visual effect, not a very good one at that either. His best offenses are his fire moves. Thus the 50 fire res from the gloves comes in clutch to shield you against those, not that he ended up using them anyways in this fight. Yeah, not the sharpest tool in the shed, that Diablo, and it was over for him without much trouble at all. Now, even though the tail end of the chaos had gone pretty swimmingly, the earlier half had taught me a lesson about the state of my character and my dependence on curses that I couldn't control. Thus, to fix this problem, I decided to do some shopping and buy a wand with a curse that I could control, Life Tap. This I mainly did for the Ancients fight. This way it will ensure that I either have them tapped or decrepified at all times, which I think will make the fight significantly easier. What also makes this fight significantly easier is getting a good roll on the Ancients. Basically reset if you see Cursed, Might/Holy Freeze Aura, or Stone Skin. It took a couple of tries, but I ended up getting this pretty tame Ancients roll with mostly extra fast or fire enchanted dudes. These I could easily lure into this corner and then teleport on the platform opposite. This is a great way to separate the three dudes, as Talik will always whirlwind to you first. Now I tabbed him instantly and went to town with my weapon. As you can see, my plan of the two curses was working exceptionally well. I tabbed him for half of the fight, thus alleviating any risk I could have had of fighting him 1v1, and then he was slowed down with Decrepify for the rest of the fight, allowing me to kill him quicker as well. I pretty much ended the fight with more HP than I started with. Keeping the chain going, I lured in Korlik next. Again, thanks to my roll selection, he was fire enchanted and extra fast, which really meant nothing to me as I was doing good damage to him with crushing blows, and once Decrepify cast with my physical damage as well. Honestly, if I had my Mercy's Blessed Aim Aura, this would have gone even faster, but my attack rating held up really well too, and I killed Korlik with incredible ease as well. All that was left was Madoc, and I wouldn't have believed you if you would have told me before that the most comfortable Hell Ancients fight I'll ever have will be on a Fanaticism Zealer, but I guess that is what we just saw, folks. The balancing of the two curses worked like a charm. I'm bummed that I didn't use this for Chaos now, as it would have made that place a breeze as well, because once all was said and done, I hadn't even drunk a single potion in the entire Ancients fight. Yeah, take that, Summon Mancer, with your 5,000 ogres. That is the best Ancients fight I've ever had. So, you would expect this success to carry over to Baal waves too, right? Well, it did. Sorta. Wave 2 was annoying because they kept reviving souls that I had killed earlier in the throne room, and with the skeleton's incessant ice bolts, it became real annoying real fast. Thus, I made the executive decision to clear out the outside of the throne first, lure the skeletons out, kill them first, and then go after the Unravelers. That plan of the action worked out pretty swimmingly. After that, things went pretty great till Wave 5, and at Wave 5, yeah, that's just Wave 5 for you. They just sometimes spawn with OP mods like extra fast, and that's just what they do to you. Thus, since I was in no mood to play at this point, I just decided to lure the dragon babies out. This is also where having a clean throne room helped, as I was able to easily get back to Baal to finish the fight and this mini playthrough. Thus, here we are. Oh boy, so how long have I been working on this video now? Approximately 4.5 months. Yeah, not non-stop obviously, but life has just been a roller coaster to say the least. When I recorded/published my last mini playthrough, I was working in a different company, living with my parents in the city that I grew up in. Today, I'm working for a much larger organization, 500 kilometers away from home, living by myself for the first time in my life of 23 years. So yeah, things have been interesting to say the least. However, I think the quote-unquote, oh my god, things are changing every single day period has quietened down, and I can focus on YouTube again. Thanks for sticking around, if you did, through my absence. Trust me, it's not voluntary. If I could, I would upload every month and maybe even stream every day, but yeah, let's see what the future holds. Anywho, hope you enjoyed this mini playthrough. Many more to come in Diablo 2 Resurrected in the future if you're wondering. I have been really cut off from the content slash news about this game as well, so please feel free to let me know all about it in the comments. What new stuff is coming? How would you like me to cover it? Just more mini playthroughs slash grind diaries of Diablo 2 Resurrected, or would you like something different? Let me know, and I hope you find this content riveting. Yours truly, with love.